Okay, the role of market information in terms of addressing the issue of food price volatility is quite important, and this was clearly shown in 2007, 2008, when there wasn't enough information on issues like stocks. There wasn't enough information on trade volumes in different parts of the world. So people started worried, being worried about what would be the supply. Would there be enough supply in the here or there? And therefore, kind of panic happened, and therefore prices skyrocketed. So market information is essential to actually calm down the market, and people have, a good, reliable information to make decisions in terms of export or import, and that would really allow prices to stabilize. So this is one of the initiative, by G20 or by different governments and countries to improve market information system. And I think since 2007 and 2008, a number of countries have tried to improve the market information system. In many cases, these are all government driven. Government is providing the necessary institutional or infrastructural support to collect information and disseminate market information. But there are also private initiatives, especially in Africa. We see with the help of mobile technologies, the private sector is also providing market information. I think the point I would like to stress here is that when we talk about market information, it's not only just a price of output. It involves, production. It involves trade volumes. It also involves stocks. What is the level of stock in the private or the public sector? You have to have all this different information to make decisions. Decisions by importers, exporters, as well as farmers. They need all kinds of information, regarding their decision, like, what should be the size of their their planting. Should they expand cereals or expand cereal pulses or go into high value agricultural commodities? This can be determined only when they have good and comprehensive information. So in this regard, FAO has been, providing a lot of information to member countries, and there are initiatives that came also very recently, including, this is a G20 initiative, EMIS, Agricultural Market Information System, but very much in partnership with FAO. So that is trying to provide market information to G20 member countries plus 7 other countries, and these actually involves major exporting and major importing countries in the world, and they focus on a small number of commodities like wheat, rice, and I think soybean. And then you have the other major initiative which started quite earlier, the JUICE, which is the Global Information System and Global Information and Early Warning System. This provides data on prices. They monitor the food security situations in many developing countries. And just to give you an idea of the coverage, they have some 1,130 monthly domestic price series in 82 developing countries. And that is huge information. And then they also have some 28 international cereal export price series. This is provided by JUICE, and this is helping governments, donors to make decisions. I think many of a good part of this information is used for early warning purposes, to monitor if there are food shortages developing in different parts of the world, especially in Africa. This is used to see if emergency situations, if prices are out of normal, and therefore some action may be required. This is again, in an area of mainly price, but also covering food security issues, food supply issues, hand and barges. And then there is another one the FAO initiative looks at policies. What are the policy responses to food shortages? This one involves FAPDA. We call it Project Food and Agricultural Policy Decision Analysis. This tries to collect a policy database from over 80 countries. So we have this information, and this is freely available on database. And what you have is not only price information or market information, you also have policy response information for different countries. We cover the 3 major regions: Asia, Africa, and Latin America in this FAPDA initiative. So one can look at what is happening to prices and what has been the response in terms of policy. We can layer the information we get from JUICE with that from FAPDA and see how governments responded and what has been the impact on prices. So this is the kind of initiative we see within FAO, trying to support member countries address or manage food price crisis or volatility. We also have the biggest information system, FAO Stat. That started probably a long time ago. That one provides information on all kinds of food and agricultural activities. It could be production, trade, food balances, food security information. You get all kinds of information on food and agriculture in the FAO Stat. That's a major database, and it is widely, quite commonly used by researchers, policymakers, civil society organizations, and FAO is very much happy that this is widely used by different countries and organizations. So this is as far as FAO is concerned, but in terms of why do we need market information? I think clearly, as I mentioned earlier, it's very difficult to make decisions, the right decisions, in the absence of information. So decisions by farmers, decisions by traders, processors, speculators, warehouse operators can only be effective, and we can avoid price variability if we have a good information system. And fortunately, I think attention to information system has increased since the 2007-2008 food crisis. Organizing seminars or training, seminars like the one you have here is quite important because it's mainly lack of capacity that we see in many countries to provide good and reliable information. Through capacity building programs, we could actually create capacity whereby countries or governments can really start collecting information, analyzing information, and designing dissemination strategies. So providing as much as possible training to especially those working in the area of market information can be very useful to improve the use and dissemination of market information, and I really appreciate the initiative that you have taken. And maybe this kind of program need to be scaled up. With only 20 or 25 trainees, maybe from one or two, three people from one country, this is not going to have the required or the expected impact. We need to have more people, and probably you need to organize training at country level too. This could be okay for a region, but then from region maybe the training has to go down to country level, where the concerned institutions could really participate and build their capacity in terms of managing food price volatility, specifically building institutions for a market information system. Yeah, in terms of addressing food price volatility, developing countries have a lot of policy options. To start with, I think if prices are volatile, maybe it's because production is not stable. Maybe production is affected by weather condition or disease and all kinds of shocks. So the best strategy for developing countries could be increase production productivity on a sustainable basis. If there is a drought problem or a weather issue, then they need to invest in irrigation. So this could be one of the responses. But apart from boosting production, I think they also have to look into how to stabilize prices using market information that I've been discussing. And also maybe as part of their policy responses, they may have to consider stocks because production takes place only once or two times a year. I think in most cases, it's seasonal, so you have production, harvest only once in a year, but you have to have consumption on a daily basis. It's a very regular consumption is regular. So to make sure that you have, you can meet the consumption need, you have to have stocks. So the problem now is who should carry out the task of stock holding? Is it the private or the government or both? I think the experience in the past has been one of government handling most of the stock activity, stock handling activities, but increasingly the private sector is also stepping in, and therefore governments need to look at their policies in terms of supporting warehouse operators. I think in many developing countries nowadays, warehouse receipt system has become popular, and therefore supportive policies, both in terms of institutional support or financial support is required to expand the access to farmers, especially of warehouse receipt systems. And in some cases, like emergencies or food safety needs, government stocks or public stock may also be required. I think the situation might differ from one country to the other, but this also could be looked at as one of the responses to address price volatility. Another area is, increasingly important again is safety net programs. Nowadays, many governments have introduced or expanded safety net programs. Basically, this involves either food transfer or cash transfer. But more and more cash transfers have become more common, and simply because these are less costly to reach vulnerable people. And experience in Latin America shows that the impact on welfare or lifting people out of poverty, these safety net programs is very critical or very important. But the problem in many countries, especially poor African countries, is lack of resources to provide cash transfer or food transfer on a regular basis. Maybe donor community is providing support at the moment, but to make it more regular, it must be more government-financed program. So some countries have already taken initiative in this direction, but we still have a long way to go in terms of institutionalizing safety net programs as a measure to address food price volatility, but also chronic food insecurity. I think in many cases, even when prices are not volatile or prices are not so high, we have people, very poor people who cannot afford to have enough food for their family. So we have to have a regular safety net system or social protection. That is one of the major responses. Another response could be investing in market institutions and market infrastructure. This is specifically true for countries that have to import food from abroad. Unless you have an efficient transport system, what happens is that not only you pay for the price of the imported staple, but you have to also add the cost of transport and transaction cost that really increases eventually the ultimate the retail price of the food imported. So if we have a good market infrastructure, a good logistic, effective and efficient logistic, the price of these food imported from abroad will not be so high. So that is an area where roads, railway systems, and marine transport need to improve. Most important, port facilities need to be built and improved to really make sure imports are not held up. Where ports are congested, I think it takes a lot of time, and that is also an additional cost to in making food accessible to the poor. So these are some of the policy responses that need to be considered, and I think the advice is there is no one ideal or perfect solution. I think we have to apply a combination of these different policies and try to create a synergy among the policies so that we have a better impact in improving food availability, accessibility, and utilization by the poor and vulnerable groups. This advanced course on methodological approaches to assess and manage food price volatility, organized by CIHEAM in partnership with Ulysses and FAO, has been very effective. I think it is going to have a major contribution to building capacity in the region. Because people now have better information in terms of what is meant, how to analyze the impact or how to measure price volatility. And they also have a good idea in terms of the policy responses. So when they go back to their institutions, they would share the knowledge they gained with their colleagues and maybe try to organize a seminar or that sort, so that the information is shared among more people. And my suggestion is, I think to have a good impact or a major impact, this should not be a one-off exercise. It has to be expanded, or maybe it is better to have it at country level as well. We have at regional level one or two courses or seminars, but then we have to go down to country level, and maybe concerned institutions like ministries of agriculture or trade can really participate and train their staff. And that way we make sure that a capacity is created at country level. And this needs to be worked out with the institutions and governments of the different countries. And clearly, because there is this capacity problem, many countries definitely have interest if you start approaching them. We have a bit of experience, in relation, a similar initiative, which we call cultural risk management. We try to provide technical support to countries, and we did see that governments are happy when you organize workshops or training seminars at country level. So I think it's a good initiative. You only need to keep the momentum and follow up this regional training by country level activities of the same type.